Hello and welcome to the 14th Madaxeman lockdown podcast in day 99 of lockdown, so we understand. This week we've got the full regular crew, all the regular features. We introduced something new as well for your interest and excitement, which is recapping the questions that we posed last week but failed to answer. There's probably quite a few of them. We talk on subjects as diverse as Clippers, Malifaux. We look at the later Austrians. We're into talking to Timmy about Napoleon in the after Austerlitz period, or possibly Austerlitz, depending on which way you lean. And then we do all the usual roundups of painting and, of course, Andy's quiz. So sit back, enjoy the podcast.
This means war. This means war.
One of our computer literate experts here tells us that this is the 99th day of UK lockdown, which for our, I believe, 14th podcast after surviving number 13 last week, for the mathematically amongst you, means that there's some sort of division thing that is way, way beyond me after about half a bottle of wine. But welcome to the other 6 people in the Zoom screen, as the way this works. Everybody's giving me a wave. That's all good.
Hey.
Fantastic. The normal full crew are here, which is marvellous. And to go straight into this, we're actually at week 14. We've yet again, for the third time, I believe, introduced a vaguely new feature. And someone has pointed out that a lot of the descriptions online for these podcasts feature questions which we actually don't get the answers to from the previous questions. So if I just start a new feature that we're going to call Any Other Business, we're going to attempt to answer some of the questions we thought we'd asked last week and answered, but we'd actually not asked, but we'd just answered instead. So first up, and if I go around, the question is, what length of bungee cord, and we can do this in imperial, I believe, is probably best, so it's consistent, is the best to attach a duvet cord to the side of an elephant? And first up, Simon, what length, imperial?
6 feet.
6 feet. Andy?
I think it depends what scale, but I'd say more like 4.
4. Peter Webb, you and your hair.
Got to
what
be
do you
12.
think? Let's go for 12 foot. Dave
I
Saunders?
want a big elephant.
Big
What's
elephant.
the duvet bungee cord?
Yes, there we go. Good answer. Tamsin, what do you think?
2 cubits.
2 cubits. Oh, he's going old school.
Oh,
Mr. Adam, down on the south coast.
Is that a European or an African elephant?
That's a very good question as well. That sorts that one. So next question then.
You've got to know these things when you're a king.
You got to know these things. Which of Napoleon's marshals would have Bernard Bresslaw been had there been Carry On Boney, the film, ever made? So, Simon, you're Australian. Have you got any clue what any of those words mean?
I know some French dude called Napoleon. After that, I'm out.
Right, Andy.
Bernard Bresslaw. Is he
Bernard
the
Bresslaw.
tall bald bloke?
He's the tall
No, he's the guy
bald
with the
bloke.
big. Yeah,
He's the tall
looks
bald
like a
bloke.
bruiser.
Adam, you 6 foot bald person. Who do you think it would
Yeah.
be?
That would be Marshal Davao then, wouldn't it?
Marshal Deval, Peter Webb,
Yeah, I did say Deval.
Dave Saunders.
definitely not Lan.
Definitely not Lamb. No, that's half an answer. We'll let you
Who
off
is
on
the
that
one,
one.
who is the one who ends up being King of Sweden? It's him.
That's Bernadotte.
Yeah, Bernadotte, that's the one.
Bernadotte. Tamsin, any thoughts on this one?
No thoughts at all.
No thoughts at all. Andy Finkel, I think you'd said nay before. Are you still
Yeah.
sticking with nay?
I'd
Or
say
yay?
Bernard Breslau's make a good
Or
answer.
Oudinot, because he was a bit accident prone and he was actually wounded 26 times during the wars.
So you'd say nay on that basis then. Okay.
No,
And
Oudinot.
then, all right. Okay. So then our other one was, do badgers make good toupees? And we'll come to Peter last. So Simon, looking at the screen, you got any views on this?
Yes. Looking at Mr. Webb, we have Exhibit A.
Andy
Because,
Finkel.
wow, that is just impressive.
Andy Finkel, badgers on the head. You seen anyone like that recently?
No, I'm going for the Yul Brynner look.
You're brilliant. Look, Dave Saunders, what do you think about people with badges
Well,
on their head?
Bear with me here, but I do believe there was an outcry a few years ago that the Scottish sporran was often made out of badgers, and there was an outcry about this being cruel to badgers. Therefore, I would hazard to say, Peter, is that a badger on your head? Is that a sporran on your head? Or are you just pleased to see me?
Right.
Always
Sam-
pleased to see you, Dave.
Of
Not for the
course.
right reason.
Tamsin, any thoughts on the old head badger scenario?
As modelled by one of our crew, I think they work.
And Adam, from the South Coast.
I'm
How's the badger situation in Dorset?
I'm assuming it's a specially trained stunt badger,
Yeah.
and it's kind of working. Yeah.
Right, Peter, have you? How's your Amazon deliveries of hair clippers going?
You see, why would I want to disturb the badger?
You don't want to disturb the badger. That's probably the quote of the week. We don't want to disturb the badger. Okay. Well, I think that's any other business or matters arising completely rationalised for the week, and we should get back into something more normal. So going round it. On who's
sorry? Can I just come with?
Oh,
was one of the questions? Can you ever trust an American?
One of the questions was, can you ever trust an American? We could quickly go around the room with that one. What would you say?
Yes. We play enough of that. How did it go?
Yes.
Can
no.
I just want to give a shout out, and I can't remember who it was, can't remember the name. But just remember, Tim, when we played in Birmingham, Alabama, and we flew into Atlanta.
Yeah.
We flew into Atlanta, and some chap from Atlanta was going to play in Birmingham as well. And he said, I'll give you a lift down. And we said, thank you very much. And he picked us up and said, I can't come because it's my daughter's wedding or something. So he drove us there anyhow and then came back again. I can't remember his name. But
no, he's a top
big
bloke,
shout out to him.
Yeah, big shout out to him. He did have a truck as well, which was proper. And I think, is it right that we bought him a bottle of scotch and then he told us he didn't drink?
Yes.
That was it. Heresy, I know. But yes, so the answer to can you trust Americans is some of them, which is maybe not as decisive as we like. Right, great.
The answer is yes, but not in an official capacity.
Not in an official capacity. So, Mr. Finkel, talk to us of your week of painting. Is this Irish? Is this drilling? Is there undercoating? What's going on?
The Irish are finished. Finished lunchtime today. So the next project is the other drilled lot, which is the 15mm Seleucid pikemen. But
These are the Zeiston ones, are they?
I'm sorry?
Were they Zeiston or forged in battle? I'm trying to remember.
Forged in battle.
Forged in battle, okay.
They're more like 15s and 18s, I would say.
Did they inside pike fit in them?
Yeah, I drilled a hole and now the pikes do fit, yeah.
Wow, I'm amazed because those are pretty hefty pikes they've got there. They're barge poles.
Yeah. Okay, so are they based and mounted? How have you approached painting them? Have you done them on a strip? Have you pre-based them before trying to do them? What's your shield strategy?
No, nothing. I haven't actually started doing anything yet. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to undercoat them. I use grey primer. I like that kind of because it means I can see what's going on, but they're not too shiny. And then after that, I'll move it on from there. I tend to paint from the inside out, so I'll do the flesh, then I'll do other stuff and finish up with the outer bits.
Okay,
is the theory.
And how, on a scale of 1 to yay, how happy are you with the Irish now that you've got them for Saga? Is this an army you're thinking I'm desperate to put this on the table, or is that you're thinking I've kind of done them, they're okay?
Well, I'm kind of pleased that I got it out of the way because they've been sort of sitting around for a while, and I think they've come out reasonably well. And I really need to read up the new Saga rules and wrap my head around them before I play anything with them, even allowing for a lockdown. But yeah, I think if somebody said let's have a game of Saga, I'd trot out the Irish and give them a go. Okay,
well, maybe that's something that we could work out a way of adapting Tabletop Simulator for. There must be a way of doing that now that we've got
I thought someone had
figures. Someone has already. Okay.
Yeah, I thought I saw one.
No, there must be.
The biggest mental challenge really was thinking what colour to paint the shields, because I just didn't want just all boring, dark wooden shields. So I wanted to paint some sort of patterns of things on them. But
just give them some Guinness beer mats.
Yeah, Peter's chipping in there with gold.
This guy, he's got Irish national flag colours on his shield. So
gold.
That's good. That's good. Yep.
Leprechaun.
So Peter, dropping down on the window. Have you spray painted anything gold by accident this week?
No,
did I see on that your Austrians actually arrived?
Austrians. So I've got
from somewhere in England.
Jaegers.
From somewhere in England was this? Yeah.
Yes, these are the Eureka ones finally turning up. So I've got Jaegers. I've got lots of Landwehr and some dragoons and such like. So been going through cleaning them up, spraying them, and slowly painting them.
So anything that's not white, basically.
Basically, yeah. Only I realised that I only had white undercoat left, and I wish I'd got, a couple of colours, and then I would have been 3/4 done by now.
Yeah, you could have green undercoated or something like that.
Grey on the Jaegers. Yeah, they're all done now. Just
they're all sorted.
Fine.
Black hats, and green cuffs. There you go. Yeah.
Might even do boots. Yeah.
Wow.
I suppose probably yeah.
So
I think it's shiny brass buttons, but they probably wouldn't show up on 15mm.
Brass buttons.
Gold.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother.
Peter would have done them gold, and then used an ink wash over them or something.
Ancient gold.
Yeah.
Ancient gold.
There
you go.
That could have been it. Okay. So you've been deep in Austrians this week. So going across, Dave, with your
they've even got top hats.
They've got top hats. They're landwear.
They've got top hats. Imagine going to war with a top hat. That is just fantastic.
I suppose you can always.
They're my new favourite figure.
You can always pull something out of it, can't you? I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. The temptation to paint a sort of black and white scheme is almost overwhelming, even though that's not relevant.
No. Paint them as city gents or something. Get them all lined up crossing Waterloo
Bridge. A couple of canes.
They're part of a Busby Berkeley routine, aren't they?
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's fantastic.
And they all dive in a swimming pool at the end. So going across. So Dave, your haircut is from one haircut to another haircut. Your haircut is still looking pretty brutal from last week, which is a great sign. Although maybe it's just the lighting here on Zoom.
It's becoming more melded in now and livable.
It's livable.
Great. I'm enjoying having very short hair. It's great. I'm really enjoying it.
So you've So that doesn't look like a Heffersteiner in front of you. It looks a little bit darker.
Heffersteiner, yeah.
It is still Heffersteiner. You're just still chewing through the Heffersteiner.
I did get a bit weird this week and start drinking some, what's it call it? Session thingamajig. I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah.
That lot. Anyway, it was quite good, but it was a lot more expensive. This Heffersteiner is by far the best beer, and it's also one of the cheapest.
Oh right, that's good. Well, I must admit, I'm here with
500 mils. So it's like.
Yeah, if you do 500 mils, that's a good thing actually. No, I'm here with Lost and Found, ABL from somewhere, which does something apparently to plant trees, but it's it's chewing along. So what have you finished the Egyptians now, or is this just
I'm still painting Egyptians. It's boring. It's even boring me. So I mean, I've done the chariots, the 4 chariots I've got. Well, I still need a lot more chariots, but fortunately I can't get them because the Fighting 15s are still closed. But when they open up, I'll get some more chariots. So I've got 4 more lots of bowmen, which will make 10 bowmen.
Oh, that's about 6 too many.
I know, exactly. But
squishy underbelly, if you ask me.
Yep.
No, it's fun. They're fun. They're right. But I have got the Khurasanian Ottoman Turks out of the box and had a look at them. It's a cast-off army of Shawns, which I got for 50 quid, which is a bargain.
That's the result. That's good.
Especially as the postage from America would have been 50 quid just alone.
No, that's fantastic. Good.
And I've worked out there's about 12, 13, 14, 9. There's got to be at least 12 bases of medium cavalry, 4 of the light horse, the 4 compulsory light horses. Yeah. The Janissaries are probably the best Janissaries I've seen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is not going well. I mean, there's 4 poses and they're actually nice, and they've actually got the Janissary firing his bow overarm. So he's actually firing from an up in the air. Yeah, that's exactly, you're sort of demonstrating there, Simon.
Like Japanese.
Yeah, that sort of action. Yeah, so they look like nice figures. The horses are a bit overly animated. Look like they're about to fall on their stomachs with their legs going out.
Dave, can I ask? Because every time I sort of look at you, I always think, no, there's a man that can't find a decent 15mm Janissary.
Yeah.
Why not? What's wrong with it's like all the other companies? Why are you so down on every company's output of your sort of like Janissary troops?
Oh, now this is a question.
Because you've looked, we've looked
the old glory ones, the old glory packet you can pick out. It's like having a big bag of sweets, but you just want the black ones.
Yeah.
And there's a lot which I passed on to Tim, which are the rubbish ones with.
I got the Castos from the old glory thing.
Yeah, they look like they had Dunce's hats on rather than Janissary hats on.
And those
So
those Essex ones are so generic that everyone's got them. You know, it's just like
Yeah.
you see
I've got
them and your
those.
heart sinks. Yeah.
and
who?
there's only 2 poses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's a bag of officers to make it look more interesting, but I mean, it just seems that you see an Ottoman army, and it's always the Essex.
Same.
Essex should do some recast of those. They should redo them. They're really old, and they should do some again.
And the frustrating thing is the old glory pack of the proper Renaissance Janissaries with musket is fantastic. They've just got hundreds of different poses. They're really nice figures. They're really nicely animated. But Janissaries with bows, it just doesn't. Me and Dave have both struggled to find anybody with a decent set. And I think part of it is it's that old classic of Essex made all their stuff when everybody wanted monopose figures.
Yeah.
And now we all have, the zeitgeist has moved on, and we all look at them as a much more kind of eclectic individual, set of people doing their own stuff pretty coolly, like kind of, I don't know, Turkish samurai without testicles or something. And you want them to all be more differently animated and more dynamic. And there just isn't really anyone who does that we've been able to find. But the real frustration, the old glory, when the ones with muskets are just so good, and they're like, why didn't you just dial that back another 5 years and make a bag with bows?
I think Old Glory made some of their Renaissance figures. They redid them, I reckon, because their 30 years war German figures are really nice. The ones I use most. I mean, all my 30 years war have been.
Legio Heroica, don't they do some Janissaries?
Yeah, no, they do. They're only they're 16th. Sorry, they're about 18th century. They're the Siege of Vienna.
Yeah, so they are the ones with muskets, and we want ones with bows.
Siege of Vienna was late 17th.
Yeah.
1683.
They don't have.
They're just not bow arms. They're just not bow arms.
No. I've got some of the museum miniature ones, and they're very nice. But again, they're like Essex, where they are single pose. So you have the one choice of guy with bow going.
Yep. Shoot.
That's it, and you have the choice of that one or that one.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just they're just such a key troop, and every army needs them, and everybody needs Ottomans, but you don't have that many of them, so it's just a kind of slightly odd thing. So it's slightly frustrating. But
I have to say that I know you lot have all been working from home. I've been on furlough for 90 days, so I've had a lot of time, and I've actually really quite enjoyed painting figures from different manufacturers. So I painted a Gladiator army, and I've painted a War and Empire army, and I've painted a Eureka Samurai army, and this Ottoman army, once I get to it, will be like fourth manufacturer, the Khurasanian, which will be 4 manufacturers in 90 days. That's been quite fun.
Yeah. Are there any when you look at those 3 that you've already done, are there any kind of ones that you go, that's easy to paint with a certain type of style or something like that, or is it just nice to have a change?
When I first looked at the War and Empire figures a while back, when I sort of saw those come out, I thought I didn't like them. But then I saw the guy from Angsty Miniatures did a Carthaginian army, and it was really beautiful, but he's a very good painter.
Andy, very good.
Very good painter, and I sort of reappraised them. And then I think that they are really good, the way they paint up, the way they take ink. I really like those figures. I mean, there's always something imperfect. I prefer them with open hands, so you can put your own spears in, but that's just my taste. I prefer that. I think the War and Empire are a real improvement, and they're quite small. I like the way they've gone back to being smaller figures.
Yeah, proper 15s.
They're nice to paint up. They're easy for even me to actually do them half decent.
And they've got nice amount of detail on them.
Yeah, it's a reasonable amount of variety in there. Yeah. So
would
you say the War and Empire is kind of the 3, the best for painting, or is it just the best to get them done? And no, do the figures do the most there, whereas the rest you need to paint a bit more? If that makes sense.
No, I've always liked painting Zeiston. I think I cut my teeth on painting Zeiston. I learned to paint properly with Zeiston. Got my techniques up and that. And I'm really pleased with the Zeiston figures for the Macedonians, because all my Macedonians have been that. But if I was going, I'd probably go for Worn Empire of all the manufacturers at the moment.
Right. Just to pick that out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, going from that, Tamsin, I'm guessing that it's been World of Judge Dredd for you this week from some of the stuff you've seen on the blog.
Just get my gallery open.
Yep. So you've been finishing off some of the more perpetrators and the crowd scene people. The judges got done a while ago, and then I think last week you were talking about doing the legendary belly wheel fatties as well, weren't you?
Yes. Yeah. I finished painting them, but was working on a little bit of terrain to photograph them with.
They're really brilliant.
So there's obviously a burger joint has to be done for those then.
Git burger.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does that light up? Wow.
Oh, that's really neat.
No, that's spectacular. That's really painting the different layering, and
they are awesome.
I've met some people looking like that at Historicon.
Yeah.
And I also painted up the last two packs of figures that I had from the range. So you've got the Denizens of Mega City 1 pack and the Arch Villains pack. So just going through.
Wow.
Mincing.
Look at that.
No, that's superb stuff there. That really is good, isn't it?
Most of these are characters that aficionados will recognise.
So do you, for these as single figures, and you just come off painting the a mass unit of Perrys. So yeah. I'm assuming or hoping, for my own self-respect, that you're adopting a slightly different technique and level of effort with these sort of individual single figures.
I am. Certainly, it's more focus and going more levels, highlighting and filtered washes to tone things down if we go too far.
So do you use many, on these? Because I'm looking at them and thinking they look like they're almost foundry 3-layer, but then with dry brushing and highlights. But do you use washes on these ones at all? No dry brushing.
No dry brushing. There's washes involved and glazes. But it's mostly layering. Using some cases, like on the jeans here, this guy, Mean Machine Angels. To do the highlights, just do very fine lines dashing down along. It helps create a little bit of texture.
Okay, so that's not just like a block of lighter colour. It's actually a series of fine lines that all blur together. Then. Yeah. Okay, interesting. I'm astonished. It's no dry brushing.
Dave.
Yes.
Judge Death.
Prime is life.
Yeah.
Oh, look, that is a beautiful figure. Judge
Death.
Death.
Awesome, isn't it? That's he's celebrating something there, isn't he?
I always thought he's Welsh, Judge Death.
Funny enough,
I thought
funny enough, his real name was Sidney Death.
Okay.
So that's all figures that I
on the left with
now
finished. I recognise from the
comments. So I'm working on some terrain. Actually, sitting here as we speak, I'm working on some terrain, doing some weathering on some shipping containers.
All right. Well, Adam, you look like you're gluing something as we speak. Sorry to interrupt you with your Gorilla Glue moment there, but what have you been up to this week?
Last week I did a batch of 28mm Mongolian horse archery type people from Fireforge.
Oh yes, you were just starting that, weren't you? Yeah.
Yeah, and I am very pleased because I put on the final matte varnish this afternoon. So I've got them done, which for me is very, very quick. I did the thing where I was going to undercoat the horses black and the riders white. I was a little bit worried about that to see when they went together whether the two styles look weird, but they don't. I think the riders do look a little bit brighter, but that's kind of okay. And again, it's sort of like undercoating the horses black, not having to paint most of the manes and tails. If I was going to paint them as well as I possibly could, the horse manes and tails wouldn't be a pure black. But for doing them quickly, black's good enough. And that just saved lots of time. And sort of like putting them together, I'm just really pleased again. Again, they're not going to win any awards, but one thing, because I haven't really batch painted 28mm figures before. Most 28mm painting, I've been doing things like Malifaux, which is the odd occasional figure here and there, so it's not too bad. And one thing I didn't realise is how much more time a 28mm figure takes to paint than a 15mm figure, just because it's so much bigger.
There's so much more surface area, isn't there? Yeah, absolutely.
And there is. And it takes a huge amount of time more, just like painting the horse, to get all over the horse. The sort of technique, you're doing the same, and the things that you're doing the same. But because there's so much more surface area, it takes so much longer. So I've only done 12 in a week, and I had to really push, sort of like make time to do that. But I'm really pleased.
I think I also find the, those little bits where you go over the line a bit, you kind of know on a 28mm figure, the wash isn't going to hide that. Whereas on a 15, it probably will when they're all kind of squished together and in the second rank. But so there's even a bit more kind of taking care of stuff, which as well as just the sheer physical footprint or the surface area of the troops.
Well, it took me 2 weeks to paint those Irish, and there's about 20 of them.
Yeah, no, it's just a different scale. Whereas Dave's taken most of his lifetime to finish these Egyptians, really, and No, but you had a lot more hair when you started, but that's a different thing. And now Peter's got it all as well.
Well, once he's got another 20 units of Bowman, then it'll be done.
That'll be true.
One thing I've noticed with people that don't paint toy soldiers is they're more impressed with the smaller scale being painted. They say, "Oh, isn't that so small? That must be really difficult." But it's actually a lot easier, because it's like painting 10mm figures, doing the face. Yeah. If it's undercoated black, you just sort of like one sweep across the flesh colour, and it's kind of done. Whereas 28mm figures, oh God, you got to get under. It's gone in the beard. Oh bugger. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like there's like just so much more to do.
Yeah, you're painting the figure, not the unit. In 10mm, you're painting the unit for sure. Yeah. That's the visual effect. Okay. So has it just been the Mongols this week? No tanks have crept in, no scenery's crept in?
No, just, and as I say, it's sort of like I've had to push, and I've been a bit told off that I've sort of like, I've snuck off to sort of like paint toy soldiers, because it's finding time to do it. But I'm glad that I've got it done.
Pressure of the podcast. All right. Okay. Simon, what about you? Just go around the screen.
So this week I've now finished off 7 of the museum Z generation elephants. So
7.
Yeah,
wow.
7. Yeah. So I finished.
What army has 7?
You're not really trying, Simon. Come on, be honest.
Yeah, well,
18th century Swedish armies.
All of them.
4 plus commands.
Yeah. So there's 4 elephants plus commands, but this could be for the Ottoman Turkish with the elephant ally, which we all know of.
Is that a man who's writing army lists for a rule set?
Yeah. But I just thought what museum have done with these new elephants, they are so beautiful. I've had to upgrade some of my existing elephants to buy some more of theirs. So I've bought enough elephants to do my classical Indians and just replace all the main elephants with more pretty ones. So I may have a whole classical Indian elephant army for sale, but minor details.
Okay. Well, next week we'll put out the eBay link on the podcast. So see if we can drive some interest.
But from an elephant model, they're quite nice, because I've now tried about 4 different ranges of elephants, and they're quite nice and sharp. And they give you a nice amount of crew. The elephant looks quite good. It's got tassels. It's got big tusks and all that. So I've done those.
Does that mean you're going to start on 28mm Indian army next week?
I've done a 20mm Chinese army with the elephants. There may be 4 of those, and they look well stompy. I don't need more elephants, he says.
Yes, you
do.
Wait till next week. There'll be some more elephants.
That's not something you'll ever hear Peter say.
Yeah.
Well, I've already got them.
Yeah. But I've also now finished off the King of the Battlefield Swedish army. So I've now finished off the final random cavalry command of some guys with swords, and they look like hussars type of guys with lots of tassels and gold and all that, with the swords waving up as they charge along. So they're quite cute. And then for something completely different, I've finished off a 15mm baggage for ADLG, comprising of half a dozen or so donkeys carrying luggage of various shapes and sizes to make a nice baggage unit.
Oh, is that Donington stuff, or where did you get that from?
That was from Madaxeman Militia.
Okay. What,
Did you do a camp as well, Simon?
Sorry?
Didn't you do a camp as well?
I'd finished the ancient British Stonehenge camp a few weeks ago. I just thought I hadn't posted any photographs of it, but when I bought my chariots and my druids for the ancient British baggage, when I was on the Major Militia website, as a wargamer does, you can't help but browse and go, oh look, there's some donkeys carrying baggage. I don't need those, but I'll buy 4 of those anyway, because I'm sure I can make a baggage for a Turkish army or something like that, or a Bedouin or biblical army. So I did all those guys.
No, I think that makes sense. Okay. All right. And
if you want your Stonehenge army base to look authentic, you want to buy a camper van for it.
now vastly extend it and build a network of enormously deep pits around it by all accounts as well.
Use the underground road for the A3.
Bypass, yeah.
It'll be a bypass under the table for sure.
No, I'm saving that because I've got enough of that. The kit that I bought to make the baggage, there's enough of the Stonehenge model to make a BUA or a village for ADLG. So I'm thinking of making an ADLG village with a Stonehenge, then the road around it, because then I can get the proper effect as well.
Okay.
Right.
That would be a good one. All right.
Tim, what have you been
okay. Well, for me, I managed to finish off some Bauida stuff that I bought from Martin at Vexilia ages ago when he started his kind of retirement, downsizing, all the rest of it. So I bought a few bases worth of the Carolingian bow-mounted bowman cavalry, which every Carolingian army has, but I think only sort of Bauida make the figures. So I bought a couple of packs of them, or possibly 3. So I sort of painted up the horses halfly at the same time I did all the Hungarian horses. I just sprayed them all at the same time, but I'd not really spent as much effort on them. And then I just kind of blitzed the cavalrymen. So now I've got 2 bases of medium cavalry Carolingian bowmen and 2 bases of heavy cavalry Carolingian bowmen, which is all great because really kind of neither of those troop types really appear in the army list. They're just described as archers or mounted archers, but then they're actually classed as lancers. So I'm going to be lobbying anybody I know who might be on the ADLG listing to regrade the Carolingian mounted archers as mounted archers and double the number of them, so that I can actually use these 4 bases. But they look quite sweet. They're kind of Bauida figures, which are quite stylized. They're quite little. They're sort of tiny 15 mil, real proper old school ones with sort of little bitty heads. And there's a couple of poses in the pack. So in a unit of 12, you've only got kind of 2 poses. I'm happy with them. They look nice and jolly. They look it, but they're Bauida figures. They're of a style that seems a little bit, even though they're quite new, they seem a little bit outdated. And then I also found, which I'd completely forgotten I had, a dozen War and Empire Sassanid cataphracts, because I've got a dozen already, which is 3 bases, 3 units, which isn't quite enough, even though you probably don't want that many cataphracts in a Sassanid army. 3 is just not quite enough. So I think there's someone on eBay who sells War and Empire for about a tenner a bag every now and then, and they just come up with... Who was it?
Yeah. I think a lot of them have been sold now.
Yeah, I think there's always someone who comes a few. So I bought this pack of a dozen cataphracts a while ago, and I'd forgotten that they were in my to-do list. But I saw them, and because I was, as Adam had suggested last week, I did actually unpack and start making some of the Malifaux stuff. And the way I do that is I make the models, these 32 mil single figure models, base them up on the 30 mil, GW style round bases, infill the base with sand, and then spray them all completely black as my standard undercoat. So while I was doing that, I thought I might as well do these cataphracts as well. So I've got this slightly odd painting thing of some finished 15 mil Carolingian cavalry bows. I've got a dozen half painted Sassanid cataphracts staring at me. And then I've got some very, very odd Malifaux stuff that I'd forgotten quite how much I'd actually got. So I've got 2 fire-branded and an Elijah Borgman, which means nothing to at least 6 of you, and possibly Adam's even looking slightly confused. But it's a new character in the Keris Firestarter kind of thing. So it's an enforcer. It's like a number 2 level hard man in your crew of 7 or 8 who sets stuff on fire and just sets stuff on fire with a couple of people who help him set stuff on fire. I've got Neil Henry, who is again a kind of an enforcer who goes with Marcus. So he kind of roams around the jungle but hits people with a very, very, very big hammer, which is great. I got Sparks, who is a gremlin, who is also cross-faction. So Gremlins is one of the factions, but he also plays with 10 Thunders and Mei Feng, who's the sort of socialist workers champion from China, whilst also being like an evil, illegal drug runner from the Middle Kingdom. And Sparks is a gremlin engineer who blows stuff up at distance.
Isn't Marcus Neverborn now?
No, he's both. He's become dual faction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I can actually use him Neverborn, but the annoying thing about one of his changes when they changed the rules about 6-8 months ago is they took out the Night Terrors, which I bought one, did probably one of my best paint jobs on it. It's like a mad evil bat thing, kind of landing on a sort of fallen over gravestone post. Did a really, really good job on it. Some really nice sort of purple dry brushing to give the sort of big black bat wings a bit of texture to it. And now that's out of faction.
Weirdly enough, when they went from version 1 to version 2, when they went from version 1 to version 2, you could have Night Terrors with the Dreamer because it sort of fitted in the theme. So I bought some Night Terrors. And then it went to version 2, and no, you can't. So, I feel your pain.
Yeah, they were great from us. And then I forgot that I bought one of the Crossroads 7, which is one of the weird things that Malifaux does. They bring out like special packs and special groups and stuff every 6-8 months, normally to time with Gen Con. So the Crossroads 7, everything in Malifaux is kind of in gangs that are all thematic. And the Crossroads 7 was a sort of standalone group of kind of number 2, number 3 level guys. There was no minions, there was no leader, but they were a band who played.
Are they like the NO5?
So no, there was 7 of them, but there was a band that played in some theoretical non-existent evil bar, and there was one that fitted in each faction, but you could use it as a faction on its own. So you don't want to buy it and waste 6 of the models that you'll never be able to use. So I managed to pick up the Arcanist Envy from the Crossroads 7. That is an absolutely awesome model. It's like a big round 50mm base. It's proper steampunk madness. So it's a walking kind of boat thing on 4 articulated steampunk mechanical legs with a double ranked pipe organ in the back, a manic guy playing away at the keyboards at the front of it, and 2 Gatling guns mounted in the front that play when he's going mental on the steam powered organ, walking through on his crazy legs, or something like that. There we go. So yeah, with all the organ pipes and steam coming out the back, and there's the mad old guy in the front of it, and weird claws. So I'm kind of doing that as well, which is kind of, you kind of have to have it, really. But I'd forgotten I'd got it, and I'm kind of putting that together. So it is starting to suddenly look at half a dozen figures and really work with them on the layering. So that stuff about the genes, Tamsin, was kind of interesting because a few of the characters that I've got are quite union working class, standing up for the proletariat within the evil drug-addled mad magic world of Malifaux. So to me, they all wear like jeans and combats.
For Cujo paintings, Kujo.
Kujo, okay.
There's some good tutorials there.
specialism in genes. Okay. All right. Well, with that recommendation to look elsewhere for your information other than this podcast, I think it's time for us to move on to the next feature.
This means war.
Okay, well, into the next stage of the of this epic podcast, as always, and we get to, I think, was it this week had been the anniversary of Waterloo or something kind of Napoleonic-y?
That's right.
Okay, so
Waterloo, Wavre, Ligny, Cotrepin.
there was obviously quite a lot of people got lost in French road signs at that time. So so we get into I think last week we finished the Battle of Austerlitz, which, if I remember correctly, when some bloke had been, all the Russians and Austrians had been on top of a mountain, and Napoleon had been very clever, and then they'd all rushed off the mountain, and he'd won. And the Austrians I'm trying to remember my previous week's learnings just to test myself on this one. So the Austrians had got spanked for the third time, and presumably instead of like losing their empire again, they got a peace treaty. Which probably annoyed the English because the English have been funding them, and the Russians have probably retreated a bit through an empire that could have held its own European championships. There were no food-based issues arising or matters arising from the Battle of Austerlitz that we're particularly aware of, and so I think with that, in the week of Waterloo and 16 other battles, maybe it was just campaigning season, maybe they only played in the summer when they're on holiday. We get into this week's episode of Teaching Timmy About Napoleon. It's difficult to motivate ourselves after that melancholy French music moment. Other than the disco bit is coming later with Andy's quiz, but the Russians have sort of retreated further, and the Austrians have pulled out their sue for peace card, and Napoleon's now beaten all these people again, and the Brits are kind of like going, why are we funding these people, Austrians? And Peter's going, damn, I'm going to need to paint some people with top hats, and it's all gone a bit weird. So he sat there in wherever Austerlitz is, having vanquished his foes for the third time. He sat there tapping on the table going, how many times does one man need to beat the Austrians and the Russians before something else happens other than him going back and becoming Emperor of France yet again? So what's next for the little chap with the funny hat?
Well, leaping ahead a little bit, after that war, the French go back to France, and about a year later, the Prussians have got the hump with the French for various reasons, and they reckon we beat the French in the 7 Years' War in the 1750s. We can do it again, not realizing warfare's changed.
And this is like 60 years later, is it?
No, a year later. Yeah.
In the 1750s? We're in the 1750s, are we?
No, they reckon we beat the French in the 1750s. There's no reason why we can't beat them again.
So that's basically the story of England football supporters between 1980
and 1966. Yeah,
exactly.
Because we were right.
Yeah.
So anyway, they engineer a war with France. The French pile into Prussia.
And when you say engineer a war, was that like they invade France?
No, they insulted the French and created all sorts of diplomatic trouble, and eventually the French said, right, we're going to go and get you.
There's something to do with smelling of elderberries, is there? No? Possibly. No, that's a different one, isn't it?
It's not recorded.
Okay.
Different film. But anyway, the French go piling into central Germany to take on the Prussians.
Right.
And
are they just going to punishment, war, or are they actually thinking we could keep a bit of this ourselves, or is it just the way it works? It was like, you have insulted our emperor, we'll give you a spanking and then go home. So I'm doing a Dave there. I'm channeling Dave. Sorry about that.
We'll take some of your artwork.
We'll take some of your artwork. They're on artistic theft mission. Okay, so they're going into central Germany.
I think it's more a case of everybody's had a war with France except the Prussians. So it's the Prussians' turn. because everybody's been involved in this war. And as normal, everybody bails in against France because they're all fighting against France.
And there's probably some British gold involved as well.
Oh,
so,
yeah,
they paid for the Brunswick army, didn't they?
Perfidious Albion is behind the scenes doing its capitalist worst to destroy the communist regime of Napoleon.
Yeah, the Brits are hiding behind the bike shed saying, "Oh, go on, I'll give you my lunch money if you fight him."
Yeah.
So,
and then the Brunswickers.
Anyway,
where in the world is Brunswick then? Isn't that, that sounds like
West Central Germany,
isn't it?
Or
like a tweed or something?
Yeah, West Central Germany.
Or also in Melbourne, Australia.
In Melbourne.
Germany's made up of loads and loads of tiny little principalities and things. So you've got the Württembergers, the Hessians, the Prussians, the Württembergs. I've already said them, I think.
Bavarians.
Brunswicks are easy to paint. They're all black.
Yeah.
Okay, the Brunswickers. So they work on with the same sort of suits.
Of course, this is how we end up with the Saxe-Coburgs as our royal family.
Okay.
Anyway, meanwhile, back in the Napoleonic Wars.
Yeah.
So the key bits, I think we'll just specialise in the battles anyway. But Napoleon goes into central Prussia, right? The Prussians have got this staff officer called Massenbach, and it's a bit like putting Baldric in charge of your cunning plans. He keeps coming up with these crazy ideas, which the Prussian staff think, "Oh, good idea," and then realise it's complete pants. But by that time,
they're not going after wildly over-engineered solutions that involved a huge amount of complexity, but actually difficult to deliver in the battlefield, are they?
Yeah, basically.
Okay, all right.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll outmaneuver the French because we march slower than them, and we haven't a clue where they are. Things of that nature.
Might work, yeah.
Right.
Well, confused
anyway,
them.
yeah. Well, one interesting feature of the 1806 campaign is I think it shows into highlights as to how Napoleon's army was better than other armies and how it kept winning.
Because it wasn't led by an idiot, is that it?
No, there's more to it than that.
Okay.
And I'll just describe it briefly if I may. But basically, it ends up in two battles. The French find the Prussians are not where they expected them to be, but because Napoleon's
roaming around the country at random trying to be clever.
Yeah, but because Napoleon's system of maneuver works really well, he manages to concentrate the bulk of his army against half the Prussian army, and the Prussians send another half off in a different direction, and they run into a single French corps led by Marshal Davout, who is probably the best French commander of the Napoleonic Wars.
And he's the one that you think Bernard Breslau would play?
That's the one.
A different guy. That was Oudinot.
Other people think Bernard Breslau would play Davout.
Yeah, well, Andy's wrong. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Andy's wrong.
Right, I have been known to be wrong. I'll admit it, but I don't think so. Anyway,
I just looked up in the dictionary Bernard Breslau, and it showed a picture of Davout. That's how much.
Fair dues. Okay, right. I'll have to hand that one to you then.
Right. The Davout thing's taking me back to a moment towards the end of a DBM World Championship type thing in Switzerland, at which me and legendary Yorkshireman Dave Handley, possibly one of the most northern people we are blessed to know, and Paul as well for another chat. We were in a very small, weird regional Swiss town, and we ended up going 10-pin bowling because we'd been basically drinking for 4 days, and we wanted to attempt to do something that wasn't just drinking. We wanted to spread it out a bit. So we ended up, after this competition, going 10-pin bowling. And it turned out that to type the name in, because this was a bit of the old school town, the French, the Swiss French speaking girl behind the desk was the person who typed your name in. So when you said I am, she couldn't really understand English at all unless you spoke a little bit in French. So I speak a little bit of French and I could explain my name. And Paul spoke a little bit of French, who could explain his name. And Dave didn't speak any French at all. And you could just see this like pall of fear descend over his face as he was panicking about going, I'm going to embarrass myself. She's going to ask me something. This is going to go on. This is going to... And then there was this flash of inspiration. And she said, oh, comment t'appelles-tu? And he went, David. It's like Yorkshire French accent. And it was very, very good at the time. But it's a good chance to tumbleweed again.
Do you know the reason why that's an unbelievable story?
Right.
Because you said you said you were with Dave Hanley,
yeah,
and you wanted to do something other than just drinking.
Yeah, you'd not been to those competitions, to be honest. You know, even after 4 days, that was after the legendary Swiss nightclub where we ended up having red vodka and Red Bull, and at one point we ended up just emptying our wallets on the bar and saying, "How many can we afford?" Because we'd run out of money. And but yeah, red vodka, Red Bull at 4 a.m. before playing was hardcore. But yes, Je m'appelle David is forever ingrained in my memory. But sorry, Andy, we digress. We're in the shores of Lake Zurich. But where are we at? We're back to Germany, back to Prussia.
Right, back to Central. So half the French army runs smack into Davout's corps. He's got 27,000 men. The Prussians have got 63,000. Not only does he not get beaten, he completely thrashes them.
Okay. And just like how? Just because they
we'll
don't
come
like
to that
hats?
in a minute.
Is it a hat-based thing? No?
No, a bit more than hats. But anyway, Davout completely thrashes them. Meanwhile, Napoleon, with 90,000, has driven off 50,000 Prussians. The two lots of Prussians are trying to escape from their respective battlefields, collide. There's complete carnage, shambles, and basically the French chase them all the way through the rest of Prussia and take over the whole place.
Do they keep it after that, or do they have
they give it back?
Armistice?
But created the Confederation of the Rhine, didn't they?
Yeah, well, there's a bit more fighting, and eventually the Rush. This is all in about October time.
Okay.
Then they steam through. They take fortified cities like Magdeburg. Like 10 hussars turn up and say surrender, and the fortress surrenders. And they capture Berlin, and they chase the Prussians all the way back to East Prussia. There's a small bunch of Prussians there, and then by now the Russians have come back from Russia and are in Poland. So Napoleon's got a bit of fighting in Poland, and it's all gloopy and muddy and snowy and horrible. And after a bloody battle called Eylau, which you might have heard of, in February, in the winter, where basically sensible people would have been in winter quarters, but you've got these people having a fight. It's a massive bloodbath. Napoleon claims a victory because the Russians back off. But basically, both armies got completely beaten up.
Right.
They then go into winter quarters, and then come June, when the weather is proper again, the French win a big battle at Friedland, and
against who? Who are they fighting?
The
this
Russians.
Time?
They completely mangle the Russians
there
this time.
Okay.
And then the Russians make peace, and there's a peace treaty in a raft in the middle of a river called the Treaty of Tilsit.
So he's clattered all the way through what we now call Germany, taken Berlin, all the rest of it, taken lots of siege cities. Then he's sort of handed them back. What? Just because this is a consistent part of the bit I don't really get.
The peace treaty with Prussia kind of got butchered. Large parts of it got cut off, and that's how the Duchy of Warsaw was created.
Oh, the famous Duchy of Warsaw, yeah.
Other bits were cut off and given to Saxony. Prussia lost a lot of territory at the end of that peace treaty.
Ah, so were there like funny little comedy German states who sort of liked the French at this time?
Yeah.
Ah, so when Napoleon beat up the big Prussian one, he like snipped little bits off it and gave them to his friends.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to keep it himself.
No. And, for example, he created the state of Westphalia and made his brother the ruler.
Did he have to give him a funny German name to do that or something?
No. Well, he had a funny name already. He was called Jerome. But,
okay. Right. So it's like when all the Polish people play for the German football team and that sort of thing.
But these are the last of Napoleon's great victories.
Yeah, but anyway, coming back to the Battle of Auerstedt, which is the one where Marshal Davout's corps beat...
Battle of Auerstedt?
Auerstedt. Auersted.
Okay.
And Napoleon was fighting at Jena, Jena, and Davout was at Auerstedt, which is about 15 miles away.
So
and he was on his own against...
No?
Pardon?
Oh no, they're on the same side, aren't they, Davout and Napoleon?
Yeah,
right. Okay.
Just in different places, right?
Right. Okay.
Now, so why did the French tend to win these battles? Well, there's a few reasons. First one is the French had, and we touched on it recently, the battalion carré system. He had his corps, and so Napoleon could give orders to vast amounts of his army very quickly because they had a proper pyramid command system.
So they have middle management, effective middle management.
Yeah, that's right. And when they marched in their corps system, each corps marched about 1 day apart from anywhere else. So wherever the enemy was, the nearest corps could fix them, and then the other corps could come up in support.
So that sounds sort of kind of obvious. What were other armies just hopeless, or?
Yeah, they just weren't as well organised. No.
Okay. So they just split up into corps and roamed around.
Well, the French also had, cavalry screens for all their, the main corps. Each corps would basically be at least 2 infantry divisions, sometimes more, and usually a light cavalry division for reconnaissance and support. And
this is one of the things, because this always seems to change. So how many infantry in a division?
Between 5 and 10,000.
So this is 5 to 10,000 people, all wearing like white trousers, blue coats. What kind of hats they're wearing at this time?
This time they're still wearing bicorns.
They're still wearing bicorns, probably.
Oh no, sorry, 1806. They're now wearing shakos.
They're wearing shakos. So there's groups of about 5 to 10,000 Frenchmen, nicely pressed trousers, shakos now, marching around. They're all going, you're about a day away. There's some horsemen roaming around in front of them. They're marauding through Germany. They're stopping at beer gardens. They're having like sausages and stuff. But all the little German kingdoms are either going, oh, you're our friends, or no, we really don't like you, but we're going to get whooped. The Austrians are sat there back in Austria going, yeah, we don't fancy a bit of this. We've had this really badly. And the Russians are kind of going, oh, God, we're going to have to do this again, aren't we, really? And then it gets cold, and then they're in Poland because they've kind of barreled through Germany and been a bit too silly to stop. It all gets really muddy, and then it's the spring again, and then the Russians get sent packing by Napoleon just being kind of cool, and they're still wearing shakos, even though it's the spring. All right, okay. And back home, is his like brother-in-law still running the country? Is he emperor? Is he god king yet? Are they building in pyramids? Is the Louvre built? What's happening at home? How's he getting recognised for all this stuff?
Well, he keeps sending reports, and and the Senate all think he's wonderful. Meanwhile, there's the beginning of some trouble in Spain, because the Spanish royal family is a waste of space. So Napoleon's got some guys down there basically helping them, and then they help themselves to the country and do a coup. And Napoleon puts his brother on the throne, and a lot of the Spanish don't like that.
So what? So rewind that, because so you just like went, and he's in Poland, and then accidentally there's a coup in Spain, and Napoleon's brother ends up le King du Spain.
Well, he's got loads of troops elsewhere. You see, he's got it's not just Napoleon himself has gone to Prussia and Russia to fight these people, but he's got subordinates and people. The Spanish were his allies, and so he sent a corps down to help them. And
who are they fighting again? The Spanish?
I think they were
themselves.
They're fighting themselves.
I think they were fighting the Portuguese to begin with, weren't they?
Oh, sorry,
I'm not sure
Andy, you skipped over a really important fact. In between the Treaty of Tilsit and the opening of the Peninsular War against Spain, they changed their hats. It went from bicorns to shakos. This is the hat change.
That's it.
That was the hat change moment. That's the important bit. Okay.
So it's going so well for
the signing bit in War and Peace as well.
Fine.
So it's going so well for Napoleon in Germany and the rest of it. And his superior tactics have shown that the rest of the enemy can't stand up to him. He starts to try and bite off more than he can chew. He has a go at Italy, and he has a go at Spain. And I think Spain is where he begins to come a cropper, because then the perfidious Albion English can really get in there and cause even bigger trouble, because the English are supporting the Portuguese, particularly against the French. And I think that's where we should leave it for next week.
So the English are supporting the Portuguese in Spain against the French, who've gone to help the other Spanish. And then Napoleon's in Poland, but then there's somebody who's also someone from the cast of the Carry On films is running the French armies, I guess, in Spain. Davu's there again. Bernard's in again.
No, Davu never went to Spain.
Davu never went to Spain. Okay, so there's some other.
We've got Charles Hawtrey in Spain trying to run things.
Charles Hawtrey in Spain is running the French armies who've gone down to help the French against the Portuguese, who are actually the English. Is this the gist of it? So, and Napoleon's up there in Poland going, "Oh, I could fancy a bit of Spanish sunshine, possibly." So, does he not think this is time for me to be in the Costas confronting the proper enemy?
He does go down there for a visit. That's for next week, I think.
Okay.
But Spain becomes a drag on his manpower, his resources. The English are being very clever by using.
You're jumping ahead, Dave.
Is this next week's episode? Is this next week's episode? Okay, so we're stopping this week. Then we're drawing a line under this week. He's skittled his way through all the comedy German states. He's snipped bits off the Prussians. He's given it to his friends who all run countries that he's just made up. His brother-in-law is like king president of most of the city-states. The Heffersteiner army has got its own banner. They're pouring a new glass of success on it. Wistefach from Feiner Weissbier. That's all good. But there's trouble brewing in Spain.
Before we finish, just quickly going back to the campaign against the Russians. The Russian army actually had a female officer, officer cadet, Nadezhda Durova, who'd run away from home. I think she was at her diaries. The cavalry maid and alleged that she alleged she was 16 at the time. She was actually 23. She'd married and had a son, and she left home. I ran away, disguised as a young man, and joined up with the Polish cavalry regiment.
As you would. Okay.
Was she called Bob?
Was she called Bob? Yeah. Was she called Bob? Right. I'm going to quickly run and get another beer. Talk amongst yourselves.
This means war.
So with the Napoleonic Wars put to bed for another week, thank the Lord, we're now into the ancient or medieval or whatever it is, art de la guerre list building comparison section of it. And this week we've got an Ottoman army face-off between my good self and Mr. David Russell Saunders, and this is the later Ottomans, list 251 in the book, which I think is pretty much known as the "Can I Resist the Serbs" list. And let's look at Dave's list. Dave, you've resisted the Serbs. I think I will stand back and describe to us in great detail your strategist initiative 3. That is an intriguing combination. Tell us how it works. List out the armies, list out the figures, and tell us how this works.
So I did go to the master of the Ottoman Empire, Dave Allen, for some advice, and then I've completely ignored it.
always a sound decision.
Yeah, wise move.
Is he busy smuggling counties, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So
is that because he always takes the Serbs?
Well, so
no, Dave doesn't actually.
If you're an Ottoman army and you're fighting other medieval armies, then the attraction is to take the Serbs because you've got the heavy knights. But I've resisted that and gone, why the hell do that? Because that's your standard Ottoman army with the Serbs. And whenever I've often played Harrison, and Harrison uses the Serbs, and whenever Harrison's used the Serbs, he's thrown a 1. And I've beaten him because I've just completely ignored the Serbs and gone round and killed all the rest of his army. So I've gone with something slightly off balance and something different. And I've actually stolen a few ideas from, I think it's one of the West London guys, West Country guys, Adrian Clark.
Adrian Clark, Mr. Warwagon.
Yeah, exactly. So I've kind of this army list is a bit of an homage to Adrian Clark. And if you look at,
you haven't got the fortifications though.
The idea.
Oh, you have.
I've got fortifications.
My apologies. Yes, you have. Yes.
I've got a strategist. I can move the terrain around. I mean, I haven't got great initiative. I mean, some of my troops are expensive. I think getting 21 out of the army is good.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll come back to that one because there's something interesting to say on that. So the idea here is that I'm going to put down Command 2 first, which is the two.
What's in Command 2?
So I've got 2 Capicilli who are the bee's knees. They're heavy cavalry impact bow elite. One's a general included, and I've got 2 light horse with them to protect them and to work with them. But it's a relatively small command. It's 4 of my army. So that's going to go down first into some area of open terrain, which means that I'm going to get a good look at my opponent's army. I'm actually thinking about defending here as well.
Okay.
If it be, which means I'll get more terrain to hide my Janissaries in, and with a strategist, I'll move the terrain about. So the idea is Command 2 goes down first with heavy cavalry, only 4 units of the army. I'm then hoping that I'm going to get a good look at where my opponent's knights are going to be. And what I want to do is put down Command 3 against my opponent's knights. And the Command 3 is heavy artillery.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 fortifications, which have to go down. Put them on the table. Behind them, you've got a heavy artillery, a levy, and a bowman. Just a normal yoke of bowman.
Your strategy is to corner sit, basically.
Basically, that's going to occupy a third of the table, and it's going to corner sit, absolutely. But hopefully, if I'm sitting there facing knights, I'm going to be sitting there shooting knights, or the knights are going to have to turn around, maneuver, and go off somewhere, which is going to cause major headaches for my opponents, because it's happened to me.
Well, Adrian did that to me. I played him at Warfare a couple of years ago. He did basically that. He put down his artillery and his war wagon and all this stuff, and I had my Serbian knights in the middle of the table, and I realised that was not a good place for them, and I had to get them all out of the way.
So, and then basically the war wagon can go off chasing the knights, and the war wagon with firearm fires 4.
Okay.
It's the only firearm which shoots 4.
Okay.
I actually had to look that up in the rules and go, really? Oh dear. And you've got supporting the war wagon, you've got a light foot to add to its shooting, you've got a bowman mediocre to add to its shooting. The bowman can add to the heavy artillery shooting. So that command...
The war wagon only fires sideways though, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that command is going to dominate 1/3 of the table.
And it can't move and shoot.
No, that's just going to dominate 1/3 of the table with 35 points.
But
yeah, it's super cheap.
If you've got knights, if you've got war wagon, couldn't I just dismount?
Yeah, that's fine. But you're still going to have to come and kill that command of 35 points because the artillery, the levy, and the mediocre bowmen are behind fortifications. It's going to take you a little bit of time because the fortification is giving me 1 protection. So all of a sudden, my mediocre bowman at 5 points and my levy at 3 points, it's going to become, essentially they've got a protection of 1.
Yeah, so you're only, even if somebody gets stuck into it, the light cavalry bow's going to get away. Your light infantry bow's going to get away. You're only losing 4 units out of your 21, aren't you? It's just
and I'm actually also hoping that if someone does turn around and go, oh dear, run away, that's going to free up my light foot and my light cavalry to go pestering around the back of my opponent's army, trying to hunt down the camp and things like that. It's as I say, Adrian Clark used that against me. It's a very fun command, and it's a very different way. It's what I call a DBM way of playing the game.
It just forces you to move stuff around. Okay. So
I came at 1 point of beating Adrian with that army, against that army.
He beat me at Warfare with it in the final game. He did.
Really well. I know. Well, I came within 1 point of beating him.
Yeah.
So you've got sort of a comedy, weird, shooty, behind fortifications, proper Ottoman command. You've got a tiny but punchy, or super tiny but punchy command second. What about your third command, Dave? Is this the rest of the army?
Yes, the rest of the army. It's 11 units of the army.
Wow. That's huge.
With a strategist to move them about. And it includes 3 Janissaries, who are basically I'm looking for terrain. I mean, the whole disposition of the army is going to depend on some terrain for them. Hopefully a nice gentle hill right in the middle of the table that they can occupy and sit there shooting at everything. And basically that strategist, his job is just to sit there and move that group around, shooting as they go. Essentially, this is a shooting army, and that's all it does. Almost every single thing, apart from the levy, shoots in the army.
It's plink,
Your
plink,
first
plink.
call could be a bit of danger if enemy knights came near them.
Yeah, but then I'll just back off.
Andy, Peter's supposed to say that.
Yeah.
But then that's where my Kapakuli command is going to manoeuvre. I'm making it occupy the opponents with the command 1, while Corps 2 does the manoeuvring in to try and kill things in the flank.
I think you're going to end up drawing a lot of games with this.
The more I look at it, the better I think this army is. I really do like it. I think it's lots of fun to be had with it, and I really like it.
So there's a couple of things that, I guess when we look at my list, but which is one of the things I thought process I had. So you've got strategist, ordinary, and you've got slightly bizarrely five light cavalry.
You've got 6, I think. Is it 5 or 6?
You've got to have 4. I've got 5 because I've got 5.
But why not just squeeze in the extra 1 to give you an extra scouting point? Was that a difficult decision?
No, he has got 6. He's got 5 Akinjis and a Turkoman. That's 6. Oh, no, you haven't. So I miscounted. My apologies.
I've got to have 4 Akinjis. I've got 1.
Yeah. I'm sorry, no, I miscounted. My apologies.
Okay. Points are quite a difficulty here. I think it would be great to have a bigger initiative, but then I'm not too worried about being on the defensive and having more terrain. I mean, a gentle hill to stick my artillery on would be fantastic. A gentle hill with a field in it to stick my Janissaries in would be great. So I'm actually quite happy with defending. The point here, and this is something Dave Allen pointed out, which is going to be an interesting conversation we can make out of this. Dave Allen pointed out that having 21 units in your army is much better than having 20 units in your army, particularly at the final count up of a competition, because it gives you statistically a better result in all of your games. Percentage-wise, you get a better percentage in your games overall.
What? Is this one of Dave's theories that makes no sense at all when you actually analyse it in any great detail?
Anyway, but I mean, the idea of going down to 20 to try and get another light horse in, or I mean, basically, I've actually sacrificed a Janissary. Most people would automatically take 4 Janissaries in their army because they're the super duper troops, but they are expensive at 12 points a pop.
No, I think they are too expensive to have 12. Sorry, too expensive to have 4. They're just too much. It's
so Dave Allen's most of Dave Allen's lists have none of that artillery nonsense in Command 3, and he has 2 and 2.
Dave Allen's list, I think, is all sort of shooty and run around.
Oh God, yeah. But I wanted the Adrian Clark homage list in Command 3. And I hope you appreciate it.
No, that's a proper Ottoman way of doing it. Actually, I guess it's just Were you not tempted to move some of the sort of Sipahi into Command 2, given how static Command 3 is? That would give you, because I'm struggling to see how you do this with 2 wings with the Corps 3 in the middle, because one of the wings is now too tiny.
Well, the other thing with Command 2 is Corps 2 can be entirely in a ambush.
I know, but if you're trying to balance, if you were trying to put Corps 3, the artillery and stuff down the middle, or are you just assuming that's not going to happen?
I would, out of choice, and all plans. The first thing, no plan survives contact. In a plan, Corps 3 is going to hold down 1 wing. Right. And it's going to hold down 1/3 of the table, even at a slight angle. It's going to slow down. So I've got a light horse in that command to go forward and slow down the enemy approaching it, to give my artillery more shots at it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, hopefully some of it might. I mean, at the end of the war wagon's going to go forward, just try and slow the enemy down as well.
Dave,
you know,
Dave, can I ask a couple of questions? The more serious one first. Where you say the command 3 is going to hold down a third of the table, what just stops it being ignored? All right, that third of the table, I'll ignore that third of the table. What's?
Yeah, no, I freely admit that's a possibility. Then hopefully it's going to, if someone runs away from that command, which I think is quite a possibility, I'm hoping that allows my light foot in that command and the light horse in that command to go chasing after a camp.
Okay.
Provided your general becomes reliable.
That's why it's got a light foot and a light cavalry in that command to be out front.
Yeah.
So if the enemy comes within 4 of it, and then the central command can hold back until he comes within 4 of the light foot.
I look at that command 3 as 12 easy points.
Fine. Yeah. Then I'm very happy for you to commit, a third of your army to killing 35 points of my army.
Yeah, I
don't care about 35 points. I care that there's 6 units.
Yeah, I look at it. I think it looks like there's 6 units, but I think 2 of those units are going to get away because the general is doing nothing with the bowman, the levy, the artillery, and possibly the war wagon.
Yeah.
Having used war wagons, they take a while to die. Yeah. This is a command that you need to commit something to it, and you're only going to get 4 of them. And in a 7-8 turn battle, you're going to march up to it. There's some weird maths about you have to stop marching at a certain distance away from fortifications and things like that. That means it takes you quite a lot of turns. And I think the plan is the firearm wagon, the artillery, and the bowman. There's 4 units there that are going to die. You're going to have to commit 6 units maybe to deal with them. They're going to take 3 or 4 hits. So, and it's just going to take a long time for 35 points, while 160 points is trying to chew up the rest of your army or overwhelm the rest of it. And that first command is enormous. 3 Janissaries plus 6 heavy cavalry or 6 cavalry is quite a big old slab of stuff.
But they're going to be hiding in the rough, because in this period, I've seen it in a couple of games. Janissaries come out of the rough, they get stomped.
What, by the medium knights?
Or even by the heavy knights.
Or by the heavy knights.
Even more so the heavy.
That's. I mean, I'm going to with 11 units. I'm going to outmaneuver any heavy cavalry knight command. That's basically those. Yeah, the Janissaries stay in cover until they move out to start operating in the flanks. Once I've got my medium and heavy cavalry bow in front, pinning the knights and forcing them to charge, then those Janissaries are coming down their side, and they're going to
they're support troops, and they're better than anything else in terrain.
And they move seriously quickly.
Yeah, they're not sat up there out the front at all. They're moving around the terrain,
and they're going to be doing the shooting with cavalry support. So your bowman, elite bowman, shooting at cavalry with something in support. You're going to shoot up anything.
And can I ask one more question, Dave?
Yes.
You say that you fought a similar army and it beat you. How highly do you rate the achievement of beating you?
Oh, not high at all.
That's a good answer.
This means war.
So, over to mine then. So this is a Dan Hazelwood inspired list, really. And I think the first big difference to Dave is I've kind of snuck in extra general capacity to get the initiative up to 5. Because I think this is one of those armies that really does need to win the initiative and control the terrain. So yes, there's a strategist in there for sure as well. And he's commanding a really big command, but getting the initiative up to 5 just gives you a much better chance. That's the best initiative you're going to kind of get. So you've got a really, really good chance of controlling terrain and moving extra stuff. And this is an almost entirely cavalry command, so it doesn't need any terrain really at all. Whatever little terrain you end up with is where the Janissaries are going to go. So looking at the first command is it's a bit similar to Dave's second command. It's a Quackapulu. This one's included an ordinary again. I've just stuck a medium cavalry bow to just stick that Quackapulu and give them some more shooting support, and then a couple of light cavalry, one of whom's impact. I think Dave, both of yours were bow, so I've sort of swapped in an impact one just to beat up other people's light cavalry, because there's an element here of harass the other person's light cavalry with speed and maneuver by moving faster. The second one, where you've got your kind of weird static kind of infantry shooty command, I've gone more textbook horse archer mobility thing with 3 elite heavy cavalry bow, which I think is a very solid force whichever way you cut it, in almost anywhere. That's good. An extra medium cavalry, there's one of them in every command, on the basis that it's just a cheap way to get extra shooting, a bit of extra width, but you're trying to fight with the other guys. And again, that light cavalry bow and then a light cavalry deli impact, just to mean that you've effectively got a 6 wide command here that will go toe to toe or harass anybody else's mounted command, with the light cavalry impact giving you an edge against their lights, the 3 heavy cavalry bow doing pretty well for you. And then my strategist is running a big sort of, again, very similar to yours, a bit like David, as well. So I've got 3 Janissaries. I think 4 is just too many. It just forces your, if you have 4, you feel compelled to use them in a way which they're not capable of being doing. And I think, Peter, that was it's almost sort of the answer to your question of, aren't they going to get run over? I think if you have 4 of them, you sort of feel compelled to stick them in the middle and try and do something with their weight of shooting, and it doesn't work. 3, if they're arriving kind of later in the game, or they're jumping out of terrain and joining in when stuff's already starting to happen, 3 can deal with an awful lot, but they're still not going to sit there. You're not going to be tempted to sit there in their own. And then this is another, heavy cavalry, Quackapulu, medium Sipahi. You've got 3 decent shooting cavalry. One of them's impact there. You've got another couple of horse archers to make that another 5 wide horse archer command. And then you're using your Azabs as light infantry bow just to pad it out to get up to 20.
And you have to have 2 of them anyway.
You've got to have 2 of them anyway to support your Janissaries in rough terrain. So you've kind of got a Mongol-style army with an aggression of 5, a couple of impact heavy cavalry bow, but this block of 3 Janissaries who can just give you a bit more flexibility and do it. So this is much more the manoeuvre and the pace than Dave's, without anchoring yourself with that unusual but Ottoman-esque command.
So if you win the initiative, which you're going to do with initiative of 5, are you going to attack?
I think you are, because with plains and mountains, I think you put down almost nothing, whether you put down the road or the bits and pieces. You put down 2 pieces, and you're then trying to clear 3 out the way. I just wonder.
Then worrying about having terrain for your Janissaries.
But someone else is going. But I think if you're attacking, you're choosing terrain second anyway.
Tim, so the problem with this army is, as you just said, it's basically a Mongol army, but with a couple of expensive bowmen. So you can't even get the number of horsemen you'd have in a Mongol army. That's why the Mongol armies that do well in the late period, they usually take the later one where you can have a couple of elephants for impact. Otherwise, it's really hard with the Mongol army to chew them up. So in the earlier period, when we go for BritCon, and it's half and half, the Mongol armies do okay in the first half. In the second half, they struggle unless they're doing the version with the couple of elephants for the impact. Otherwise, you end up drawing a lot of games because shooting in the later period, when you're up against, say, heavy knights and that, fine, it's going to be hard for them to close you down, but you've really got to get the shots in and everything else, and be a bit canny. Otherwise, you're really having to push it to win it. You might get them close to break point, but it's trying to get the hits in.
Yeah, but I don't think it's about, it's shooting in terms of support. You're feeding possibly that first tiny command in front of a chunk of knights, and then you're using the rest of it on a field that you've cleared with your strategist and your high aggression and all the rest of it to sweep around the other side. And there's nothing that a medieval army is going to put up that's going to be as good as into rough terrain as 3 elite Janissaries and a couple of bowmen to support them. And,
most medievals don't care about rough terrain. They don't usually have that many to go into rough terrain, so they're just going to lock it out. So either you're going to have, they're all going to be fighting away from the rough terrain, or there's going to be that one bit of rough terrain where your Janissaries are going to sit and they're not able to come out because then they'll get stomped. Like I say, I think the problem with both of these armies, I just see them as quite, I don't know, they're both lacking a bit of oomph.
So, Peter, what you're saying is the problem is that they're Ottoman Turks.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think the challenge with the Turks, and I think where both me and Dave have gone here, is if you get the Serbs, you end up with an army whose entire function is to be a Serb delivery system.
Exactly.
Everything else in the army is supporting 4 Serbian knights getting into contact, and if they do all right, that's okay. If they're unreliable, you lose, and if they get into combat and don't win, which they could do kind of 50-50 against some similar number of knights, you might as well toss a coin. Whereas but the rest of the army involves supporting the Serbs, and that's your one strategy. Whereas I think with these you get some more other stuff to do.
But I've seen the one with the version with the Serbs played quite well, because they've had, your strengths are, you've got the Janissaries, so no one's going to really mess with you in the terrain unless you turn up with, say, Almogavars or something. So, you've got the terrain covered, so you can have the Serbs as that threat to make them come forward, because you say, these are the things you can go up against. And meanwhile, you can have the terrain for the overlap at the side, or have them, peppering the opposition a little bit to soften down the opposition's knights coming down. You've got the mobile side to keep at least one, not two, if not 2 commands tied up while you're dealing with that one command with the Janissaries and the Serb knights to actually focus down on something. You've got that mobility. With this, you've got a lot of mobility. You just don't have the punch.
Pete, but I think the point of this army that you're missing, it's not about the shooting so much. It's more about the manoeuvre, and you're hunting for flanks, and you're looking to collapse on the side. And even being able to dominate an area of medium terrain, okay, the Janissaries can't come out if something hard's facing them, but nothing's going past them, and they can come out to threaten flank. So it's more and again, it's an army that I try to use, and I'm rubbish at it, but I've seen people do it well. It's more a messy opponent around, picking apart, take the front and flank, and then collapse it from the side, rather than rely on it.
It's the Mongol army without the elite shooters.
Yeah, but with Janissaries.
You've got plenty of elite shooting. You've got 3 Janissaries, 2 Katakulis.
Yeah, well, I think there's a slight tweak you could do to your army which might be useful, which is if you make the Delhis in the second corps ordinary, you could then upgrade one of your light infantry Azabs to mediocre medium, which is better for shooting and support, and help to support the Janissaries. Just a thought.
Favorite troop type.
Yeah.
So Tim and I played a Burton's double, or was it, I think, Cardiff doubles in ADLG a few years ago, where there was the Tim and I played against against a Belgium
the Belgian kid,
where they had a Ottoman army and a Serbian army. Okay, yes, the Serbians were there to annoy people, but what the Turks did so effectively was, as an army, they weren't all about the engaging. They were run up, shoot you, annoy you, pull back, shoot you again, dick around and all that. But as soon as they got into one flank, we had one Janissary unit get into a flank and managed to burst through one unit. And it basically did a Pac-Man down our flank, because we had, by the time things had gotten all lined up, we had nothing, we had no second line to deal with it. And there's one Janissary every turn, charge, drop, charge, drop, charge, drop, charge, drop, and just walked its way through. And it was quite an effective tactic. So yes, I know it was a doubles competition. It's a little bit different mechanics, but it was a very interesting way of using the Janissaries and the Capiculi, who I hadn't seen done so effectively, because Tim and I rocked into that game going, we've got these guys. And about 2 hours later, we went to the bar going, well,
yeah, that didn't work.
That hurt.
No, I think my kind of thing that put me off the Serbs, I can't remember which competition it was. It must have been last year. And I played Mick Bennett, and he had Ottomans with Serbs. And I think I was actually using the Samurai. And I think the Serbs might have been unreliable for a turn or two, and they got into a bit of a slow start. But they came forwards. But because he had the Serbs and the Janissaries, the rest of the army was so small that the Serbs were, fighting some of my 3 or 4 heavy infantry, which I just sort of fed the Serbs to occupy them. And I kind of didn't mind if they lived or died. But then suddenly there were the other 5, 6 heavy cavalry in his army were taking on 10 of my samurai, warriors and stuff. And we were just the army was completely all over him, because you end up focusing so much on trying to get the Serbs in, and the Serbs are still only a 4 wide block of knights, which isn't going to win you a game in its own. It's just become such an obsession that not having them forces you to think a bit more about different ways of putting the army together.
What I would say in agreement with Peter, however, and against that a little, if you use the Serbs well, because any army, if you do it badly and you end up using the Serbs to attack a block of heavy foot, you're not going to do well. But if you use the Serbs well, they do what they do very well. And if you were going to design an army that's a Serb delivery system, actually this is it. So that can, there's a reason why using the Serbs is a cliche. Yeah. Because
it does work. It does work.
It works. I think if you don't use a Serb, you've just got to work harder, and it's just like you've got to play better almost. You've got to work harder to pull your opponent apart.
No, I think that's a fair shout. Yeah. All right. Well, shall we?
Yeah, I think the Serbs are. If you're a, I mean, that's
Serbs is the training wheels, isn't it, for this army?
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
You know what you're doing. They're gonna do what they do. That's the answer. But all right, well, shall we go through the list then? So this one, this one here is mine. 20 points, initiative 5.
Only 20 in the army.
Only 20 in the army, but without the heavy foot, it's just a much more kind of Mongol-y sort of mobile army. Dave, you're initiative 3. You're up to 21. You've got the kind of textbook Ottoman sort of mini version of the Ottoman wall of shooting and stuff as well. But you've still got the massive Janissary and heavy cavalry commander, the tiny Krakapulu command as well. So they're not, in some ways, they're not that different, but in some ways they're completely different. So of the two, if I sort of run down from the top, so Simon, which of these two would you favour? Would it be Dave's one with the comedy artillery, or mine with the I can't believe it's not Mongols?
For me, I'd go for the Tim army of the I can't believe it's Mongols, because you got the initiative of 5. You can either defend. If you get someone who's got steps, you could defend the steps, get the nice open terrain to play around in, or you go with mountains or whatever to annoy another opponent with lots of heavy foot or type of combination like that. So you can hopefully deliver your army in the right place to really maximize the points. I do like the war wagon that Dave chose, just because they're a cute miniature and all that. But I think it just makes this army a little bit too static. Yes, if you sacrifice everything, you only lost 35 points, and 2 of those elements can run away. But I just think it does give you that corner where if someone cracks that, you can then really push around, and you've lost one of your entire commands. So I'd go the more aggressive army.
Okay. All right. Andy, going down the list to you, which one of the two do you fancy?
I agree with a lot of what Simon just said. I think Dave's army ties him down to defending, and I don't necessarily buy into the idea that two of his units can run away, because they're essentially going to be in one kind of corner or near the back of the board, and if the enemy attack them seriously hard enough, they won't have any space to run away to. So I think you could end up losing 6 units quite easily. And I think with Dave's army, it's geared for defense, not attack, whereas yours, you are geared for attack, but if necessary, you could defend with it. So I think it gives you more flexibility. You've got stuff which could usefully, you could send the first corps on a flank march if you really wanted. So I think your army is more of a, useful maneuvery army. And if I had to choose between using one of the two, I think I'd rather use yours.
Okay. Tamsin, over to you in 2000 AD.
Well, I'd lose with both armies quite easily. But on balance, I think I'd go with the "to me, can't believe it's not Mongols" list. I'm not very good where my army is tied. Even part of my army is essentially tied down to an area, so I prefer the manoeuvre.
Okay. Well, moving up, Peter, are you going to vote for either because they don't have Serbs? Is a pass possible on this one?
I'm disappointed in both. I wanted my Serbs to go charging in.
Boring.
I've got a corner sitter, or I've got the fake Mongols. They can't even do the Mongols deep. It's just, I've got Mongols turning in the grave going, what do you mean it can't be not Mongols? We're so much better. We even have elephants. The Mongols have elephants at this period.
Would it be better? Would it be better if
Chinese?
Would it be better if one of them was allowed like badger pelt headdresses or something like that?
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
Austrians.
Well, that's why the
so
Serbs
make a choice.
Peter,
make a choice.
So which one would you be forced to have?
I can't corner sit, so I'd have to run around with Tims.
Right.
Yeah. Tim,
Can't corner sit.
Peter, if you wait 200 years, the Serbians are then part of the Austrian Empire.
Yeah, exactly.
With green trousers,
I've got
right?
some. They're Genzers.
The
geezers, yeah.
All right.
The geezers.
So Mr. Warsdale, all the way from the south coast. Which way are you on this one?
First, I've got to say I really like Peter's comments. He's such a dad. He's not angry. He's just disappointed.
Yeah.
He's disappointed in both of them. I think I actually like Dave's army because it looks Ottoman-y with the guns and the war wagon, and it's also got cool models, which I kind of like, because if we're going to put models on the table, we might as well put cool models down. But before you cheer too much, Dave, there's a however coming.
I can hear it. I can hear it.
Yeah, I have got questions on how to use your army, which I am willing to admit might be answered very, very well. But I don't know the answers to the questions of how to use your army. Whereas Tim's army, I don't think I'll be very good with it, because the sort of like Mongol army, as I've tried to use, it's just really hard work and I'm not very good with it. But at least I understand what it's trying to do from the get-go. As opposed to yours, I would have to use it a few times and go, oh, I've lost again, but that's how it works. So with Tim's army, at least I understand what it's trying to do from the get-go. So I would probably go with that one.
Okay. I think that's that's complete clean sweep, isn't it? That's a full set.
Right one, isn't it?
So Dave, I must admit, I am looking at your army and thinking, do I need to prize some of my my musket armed or whatever it is, arquebus armed Ottoman infantry off their bases and stick them into the back of a war wagon, because that is a kind of cool idea. I got that down in my mind as something that had to have a gun in it and like an artillery piece, but possibly with firearm.
The more I think about that army, the more I actually like it.
Yeah. No, I think it would be a really interesting one to do. Is it one of the ones that's on Tabletop Simulator? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember.
We could have a go with it.
We could possibly have a go on it. All right. Well, we'll dig that out. But I think with a 5-zip sweep, I think yours is the one that goes back in the box, and mine's the one that goes onto Tabletop Simulator.
That'd be a lesson.
This means war.
So having ended with a complete clean sweep, I think it's time to see what next week's army is. So Mr. Leroy Mayer, in your world as IT Major Domo, we're going to do the sound effects while you go online to randomnumber.org. Is it a random.org? Here we go.
Yep. Number 9, Assyrian Empire.
Assyrian.
Yeah. Look at that.
That's a proper.
It's got here we go. It's got 2, 4, 6, 8. It's got 10 ally options. That should keep someone busy.
That's a fantastic army. So who wants to put their hand up for doing Assyrians and Sargonid? Adam, I think this has to be one for you and your boy, doesn't it?
I think, as I've got a boy called Sargon, I can not very well avoid this one.
I think that's you. So me and Dave have already played. So who else on the list is someone who's on World of Sargon?
Well, it's either Tamsin or me. I'm happy to have a go, but Tamsin wants to. I don't mind.
Oh, go on then.
Okay. So we got an Adam against Tamsin off next week in the classic Assyrian and later Sargonid, one with a million different options.
You want a Hebrew ally? Take it from me.
This means war.
Okay, so having discussed what army list that we could possibly put on field at some point in a virtual or a real world, it's probably time to look at who's actually played what. So Simon and Andy, I understand you've actually played a game. So Simon, how did it go from you?
It was really good. Andy and I had a friendly game last night of medieval Spanish versus Italian condotta, and there was violence, there was bloodshed and mayhem, and then Tabletop Simulator crashed at about 11:30 at night, just as I was about to roll Andy's army up. That's my story. I'm sticking by it, and it was actually really, really good fun. I'm very impressed with it. It really gave you the feeling of the game. It's not as good as Tabletop being in the pub with a pint in your hand. However, it's really, really good.
Okay, all right, that's good. So Andy, how did you think it went for you?
Well, my knights were all about to die, but on the other hand, I was about to kill off one complete wing of his knights, and I was wheeling my army 90 degrees so that it would have been a somewhat interesting game in that you have two complete phases. Phase 1, we both beat up a part of the enemy army. Then there would have been a natural lull while we got ourselves organised. And phase 2, I think, would have been somewhat drawish. So I think at the end of the day, it would have been a tie, particularly if there's a timed limit, like in a competition game. And I think Simon might have just squeezed a few points more than me in a draw.
Right. Well, I can see Simon kind of disagreeing on video over that one then. So it was
violent.
A decent game. It was a decent game.
Yeah.
Then Andy, I think you played another game this week as well, by the sounds of it.
Me, yes. I played an American chap called Paul Georgian, and he was using Syracusans and I was using Carthaginians. And he very sportingly put a brilliant commander embedded in a mediocre spear unit and then left it in the way of a Gallic impact swordsman. And,
I can see the way that story ends.
It did, yes. Well, we both rolled 4 on the dice. So because he's mediocre, he drops to 3. So I do a hit on him, +1 for furious charge, and then I rolled 1 to kill his general. And after that, his centre kind of fell apart.
It's obviously he'd managed to regress from the time I played when he gave me a bit of a kicking with a kind of much better constructed.
I don't think he was planned. I don't think he planned to put his general in harm's way, but he kind of got carried away trying to use it as an overlap in another combat, and it happened to be there when my elephant medium swordsman combo rolled up against his spearman, And elephants and medium swords impetuous against spearmen is a good deal as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, good. Well, that's another couple of games of Tabletop Simulator. I managed to squeeze one in as well. I played a Spanish policeman from Barcelona who is actually just picking up the game. I think he's only played like half a dozen or so games before. A former, DBMer and an established player who's oddly enough in the world of Spain just kind of got into the world of ADLG. Really nice chap. We had to have a short break in the game for him to put his daughters to bed. I think it was kind of about 9, 10 o'clock at night in the UK. A little bit later for him or something. And he had interestingly enough, talking about the Janissaries, he had an Achaemenid Persian army with the Sparabara and the Immortals in there, a big block of 6 of them, 4 of the armored spearmen as well next to it, then kind of a big cavalry command on one side and some sort of smaller cavalry supporting the Immortals. And I took Alexander the Great, the kind of, grab off the wiki sort of scratch textbook list with the usual 1 command, Death Star plus a couple of javelin men, 1 command of companions and a few pikemen, and then another command of pikemen and another elephant. And it was a really, really good game, actually. I actually recorded it, and I'm going to try and do a commentary and put it out on a speeded up video thing, so I can squeeze the whole game into about 7 minutes from the couple of hours that we played for, and try and do that.
Are you going to add the Benny Hill music?
No, I think it might just be me talking, actually. But
so
but it was
have you convinced him to take up ADLG now?
Oh, he's convinced anyway. He thinks it's fantastic. So and he's already pretty good at it. So
I know someone who's selling some elephants.
Right, yes, there's a man with some spare ones somewhere. But no, it was my army just really didn't survive against the massed shooting from 6 Immortals and the rest of the other guys. So it really took too many dings on the way in. And I think at one point I was 1 off breaking in his turn, and he was like 7 off or something. And I survived that turn, squeaked a few, and then we ended up with a mutual destruction. So I think I kind of clawed back 6 or 7 elements in a game in a turn and a half to do it. Killed one of his generals. That sounds like me
against Ratha. I was down, and the last turn I grabbed his camp and chased off 2 units and got a draw when I'd been 6 down against him.
No, it was a cracking game. So that was a really good one. Hopefully I'll be able to get a video out of that at some point in the near future as well. So that was the week in gaming. I don't know, Adam, have you played any of your kids? No, nothing there.
Painting as much as possible.
Tamsin, nothing on your side, on the gaming side this week?
No gaming this week.
Okay, all right. Well, with that then, I think it's clearly, the gaming having done, here is the most entertaining and most competitive part of the week. It's time for Andy's quiz. Whoa, Andy, it's amazing to I now associate that music with you. In fact, when I see you down the pub afterwards, I'm going to be slightly disappointed when that music doesn't play every time you walk in the room. But hitters, oh, possibly it will. Simon's recording it to play around and follow you around with you. But now hitters with some answers and hitters with some questions in the world of Andy's quiz.
Well, I'm going to read back the questions from last week. Tamsin, obviously, as a star pupil, was probably going to know the answers. So I'll ask Tamsin just to wait to see if anyone else has got any idea of the answers before she chimes in with the right ones. So the quiz last week was plucky numbers. Here are the official numbers of 3 British Army infantry regiments and a well-known fact about each one. What is the geographic-related name of these regiments? 28. This regiment earned the right to wear their cap badges on the back of their hats because they fought enemy to both their front and rear at the Battle of Alexandria in 1801.
I haven't got a clue.
Not a Scooby. You're yeoman.
Rear enders, I don't know.
Gloucesters.
Do you know Tamsin?
Essex.
It's Gloucesters.
Yeah, the Gloucesters, that's right.
What is it?
Pacific North Gloucesters?
The North Gloucesters, that's right, yes. Right. So the next one is
1801.
That's right, 1801. Yeah.
Is this in
57th? Right. This regiment acquired its nickname the Diehards from its heavy casualties suffered at the Battle of Albuera in 1811.
That's in the peninsula.
Yep, they got kebabbed by French lancers.
On the retreat from blah, blah, blah.
No.
Yorkshire Yeomanry? No.
No.
There's got to be a die-hard joke somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you know Tamsin?
No, I don't know this one.
Okay, it's the North Middlesex Regiment.
Dave, that's where you live. That's Harrow.
That's Harrow.
Yeah,
Harrow.
not very. I think most of them died. That's why nobody knows about them. And then the next one is the 88th. The translation of this non-English regiment's motto is "Clear the way."
So they're a non-English regiment. So what, they Gurkhas?
It's got to be the 51st Highlanders.
Well, there's a clue in the name, 88th, which means they're not the 51st Highlanders.
So they're the Highlanders then.
Well, they're two fat ladies.
The 88.
They'll be the Highlanders.
The 88 formed for Connaught Rangers.
Correct. That's it.
But
Connaught Rangers.
That's not their motto.
No, the motto is Forga Balloch, which is the Irish for clear the way.
No, that's Royal Irish Rangers.
That might be an amalgamated one from now.
No, Connaught Rangers.
The Royal Irish Rangers didn't exist in that time.
So was who shall separate us, or none shall separate us, or something like that.
I suspect that given none of the rest of us even know the questions, never mind the answers, we should probably let you two argue this out in your own time.
Yeah. Well, we'll leave it open. Right.
Question, comment les voir? Question, le trou est sans fond. Question, la légende le dit. Question, elle dit aussi. Question, c'est une maladie. Question.
But this week is a very serious question. The quiz is called French Toast. The following three French army marshals all died in unusual circumstances. How did they die? The first one is Maurice de Saxe in 1750.
Dave, can we get a bit of your French accent to say Maurice de Saxe?
De Saxe.
Yep.
Okay.
1750.
It's good. It's good. Okay.
Yeah, do your best LOLO bit, right? Next one is Alexandre Berthier in 1815.
Oh, I know that one.
Who?
Alexandre Berthier in 1815.
I love that one. That's my favourite.
But we want it in Dave's French. Come on, Dave. Off you go.
What was his name again?
Are you paying attention?
Alexandre Berthier.
Alexandre Berthier in 1815. Of course. Bien sûr.
Right, now listen very carefully. I shall say this only once. Edouard Mortier in 1835.
Edouard Mortier in 1835.
You know, it's 35. Get it right.
Yeah. Right. Ladies' underwear going up. Here we go. Right. So, well, look, on that fantastic note, I think that draws another big black line under Andy's quiz for yet another week, or possibly another big blue line.
Question, comment les voir? Question, le trou est sans fond. Question, la légende le dit. Question, elle dit aussi. Question, c'est une maladie. Question.
Right. Well, we're into the end zone now. I think with day 99 drawing fast to a close, and nearly into day 100 from world of lockdown. So it's the traditional roundup of what painting, what stuff have you got planned for this week, and I guess any other business as well. So Peter, other than just chewing your beard and muttering about everything must have nights, what's your plan for this week? Elephants and Knights. What are you planning for this week?
Elephants and Knights. Finish the Austrians, the ones with no white Austrians. So then I'll actually have, apart from one unit which is still on the way, I'll have the Austrian army hopefully pretty much finished by the end of the week. And then I've got a couple of Art Laguerre games booked with my son, hopefully.
Okay.
So which son, and how much do we think he will table you by?
It's cost centre number 2, so he normally crashes me. He's he's determined to end up, when we come out of lockdown, with a higher ranking than me in the Adliger rankings, and he knows he'll do it as well.
Yeah.
So in between beating me at chess, he's now beating me at Adliger. So,
well, you've got to encourage the kids, haven't you? We've got to encourage the kids.
I am, but
so
I
if he uses an army
to help him.
If he uses an army without knights or elephants, are you going to say, "Look, son, I'm not angry. I'm just a bit
disappointed."
Already done it. It's like
already done it.
Opposite.
Very disappointed.
All right. So Adam,
you've got to give him lines
going forward.
You've got to give him 100 lines. I must not use spearmen.
Yeah.
Well, he's been tutored by Simon and a couple of others when they were playing the 25 stuff. So he's going to have knights, he's going to have elephants, and he's going to have all sorts of pikey stuff to actually go forward and get stuck in.
The badger doesn't fall too far from the tree.
Yeah, absolutely. Badger attack.
Yeah. So Adam, what's on your painting table this week?
I am going to do another batch of 12 Mongol cavalry, because that's, apart from 4 more in the general, that's the Saga army. Usually I don't do the same thing twice because I like to do different things because I get bored, but I was so pleased with getting the other lot done. I thought, yeah, let's crack on and do the second box. So that's what I'm doing now. But I do have a question, because I'm going to buy some toys, and some of the toys I'm buying is some of the 1/6000 ships, and they're from Magister Militum. I also want to get some 10mm Germans to sort of like fight against my Russians. Yeah. Magister Militum 10mm German troops and stuff. Any good? Worth getting?
Yeah, their infantry are really nice, actually. I think I've got some of them, as I do with all sorts of 10mm, but they're very, very good. They're a little bit more from what I remember, and this might be wrong. They're a little bit more chubby and cartoony than the Pendraken ones, but they're really nice little figures. I'm not quite so keen on their vehicles. They're a little bit tiny. Some of the 10mm stuff is going up to 12mm really, and 1/144 on the small scale.
Victrix are releasing a load of 10mm World War II.
They are.
Yeah, I looked at that, and they've released, and I was going to get some because I might buy some more stuff from Victrix. But years ago, I bought a load of that sort of like pre-painted museum 10mm German stuff. So I've got some tanks to set me off. So I just need some toys. So if and do you know if the German infantry are early war, late war, or you don't care they're Germans?
I think at 10mm you don't care they're Germans unless you really want to paint oak leaf camouflage on them, which you don't. Which you just don't. So they're kind of my. Well,
they're carrying rifles, or they're carrying things like Panzerfaust. That's what would determine it.
You can mix them up, but I think my Germans, I even go with kind of slightly lighter trousers and darker tops and coats to just give them a bit more, definition and comedy Germanness. But yeah,
I'm going to go with spray them grey, to be honest.
Yeah, spray them grey.
What wheels are you going to use, Adam?
Well, for the 10mm, it'll be Blitzkrieg Commander.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been playing Rommel. I quite like it.
I've looked at it, and then I just thought, can I do another set of rules?
And it is a board game. It is a board game with figures, with some quite steep victory conditions. But all right, so going around the room, Saunders, do you think you'll be? Well, actually, I suppose the real question is, have you got too many Ottomans, or can we negotiate for a side deal for some Ottoman cavalry on the sly out of your excessive purchase?
No, I've definitely not got enough.
Damn.
In fact, you know what? I actually might.
You're on, Porter.
Wait! I'm not finished. I might actually need to put in an order to Kyrgyzstan in America.
Right.
More Ottomans.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, if I'm going to do an army, I want the variation.
Yeah.
I want to have some heavy cavalry, and I want some medium cavalry. I want to make them distinguishable.
I'm in the market for some Austrians, for some Janissaries with muskets for Renaissance, if anyone's got some spare ones.
I've got some. Well, Tim asked first. I've definitely got some Ottomans with muskets.
No, I don't need the Ottomans with muskets. I've got far too many of those.
You did. I thought I'd offer you them first before we said. So, Andy, I've got a bag of Ottomans with muskets.
Are they any good, or are they crap figures?
No, they're really nice figures, but
the Old Glory ones, they're great.
for ancients, I only need a couple of them.
Yeah.
So I've got a bag of 8, I think, somewhere.
We'll discuss it separately then. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a definite.
These are the Simon's rules.
We're back to painting. I'm bored stiff of painting Egyptian bowmen. As you do with any army, you get bored of painting it at a certain point. So I might shuffle them into the side of things. And I think I'm going to start painting these Ottoman. I think I'm going to start with painting some of the medium cavalry, the bulk of the army. See how they paint up, the Khorasan figures, see how they paint up. There's a lot of variation. I mean, I'm not sure about the horses, but they may look nice once they're painted.
Do you find most Ottoman cavalry you have are actually modelled with spears and shields, even though they're described in most rules as being bowmen?
So the Khorasan figures are a real mixture. I mean, I've got a big bag of like 12 here, and some of them are split figures with.
I like the Khorasan figures. I've got some from when I was last in the States. It's just he does this weird thing about, the legs are already stuck on, aren't they?
Well, I mean, I think, Khorasan, I've got an entire later Byzantine, Nicaphorian Byzantine army from him, which I bought years ago, and I love that army to bits, and I used it an awful lot. Some of the horses of this, I think he's got 2 or 3 different sculptors.
Yeah, they can really vary, can't they?
Yeah. He's got a Burmese army list with lots of elephants, Simon.
I've seen that, yes.
Some of his sculptors have real
elephant baggage,
old spears and things like this. But a lot of these have got open hands, which I love to bits. Some of them are split. They're very, I would say, gracile, using my archaeology terms. So they're very thin. They're interesting sculpts. So I'm going to start painting some of them and have a look at how they look.
All right. Well, it sounds like if you decide that there's an American order to be placed in, maybe there'll be some more people chipping in with that one then. Okay. Yeah. Well, Tamsin, have you Judge Dredd's now done? Are you onto a new project? Is that where this happens?
Well, the Judge Dredd figures are done, but so now it's a case of making a load of terrain. Painting a load of terrain up for it, and I've got.
Wow, that's a stack of MDF there, my lord! There.
Wow, that's a lot of terrain.
There's going to be a real smell of burnt wood in your apartment, isn't there, for the next week or so before that kind of gets all put together?
And
for sure.
Loads of resin.
Oh, so there's going to be all sorts of weird, burning smells then, isn't there?
Grains go around. So that should keep me busy for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, that definitely looks like a couple of weeks project. And Andy, I think we keep talking about your drilled Seleucids. Are they top of the list now?
Yeah, I've been painting I've undercoated and put the flesh on them this evening. So I'm not quite sure what kind of trousers they wore, being Seleucid spear pikemen, but I'm guessing linen, kind of red or something.
Linen, plainy, beigey linen. I would have thought get the colours onto the tunics. And
I also discovered another bag of figures which I forgot I had, and they are Breton light medium cavalry men, and I thought they'd have the Breton allied for the Norman army, so they'll need painting up one stage.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was tempted to start doing some basing tarting up on my 2 Dragons Normans actually for some week, now that I've got these Carolingians, even though they're completely different. They go in the same drawer, and it made me realise my Normans needed being a bit of doing. I think my stuff, I've got these Malifaux figures to spend some time on. And then actually one of the things I discovered or remembered or whatever it was from doing these plastic glue together, Airfix glue type figures was because I've got all this plastic Arab 28mm army to do that I've got loads and loads of sprues for. I actually bought a sprue clipping tool, a pair of like little tiny pliers, which Adam's waving one at me there as well. Yeah.
And they're handy, aren't they?
And they're amazing. It's just what a brilliant thing. You kind of look at it and you go, why am I going to spend like £7 on this when I've got a pair of scissors and a knife? Yeah. And then you get it and you're like, this just makes this so much easier.
No, you've gone through the same thought process as everybody else. At first, it's like, I don't need to buy one. I've got a Stanley knife. That'll be fine. Yeah. And then in the end, you go, I'll get, and it's the correct answer, isn't it? They are just handy.
I actually started, I did these like 6 or 7 figures and I was like, this is so cool. I actually want to start doing like 200,000 Arabs just because I want to clip them all off the sprues, and it'll be so satisfying. You know, it's almost like the war games equivalent of popping bubble wrap, I guess. Clip,
Yep.
you know, all that sort of stuff. And I've actually ordered some as well. Some after my kind of Hungarian white paper sticky shield malarkey, I've actually ordered some water slide transfer printer paper as well, which now I know exists, which I didn't know existed before. And there's both basically clear and white backed as well. So I think probably, you know, I think this has been the 2 or 3 weeks of Black Lives Matter, but I think the thing will be LBMS matters, or LBMS Lives Matter, because I might now have a way of producing my own shields that doesn't pay the wonderful Steve at LBMS, you know, £10 a sheet. And you know, I feel slightly guilty about putting him into economic hardship, but I do think I probably funded several cars and a 2-decker extension to his house, amongst the 7 of us here, to do that amongst some of the stuff that we've done before. But it'd be interesting to give that a go and see how that all, if that pans out as a different.
Yeah, Adam, it was interesting what you were saying about using that clipper thing, and now because I must admit, when I had the drill out the other week, drilling the Irish and then the pikemen, I was thinking, what else can I drill while I'm about it? but nothing else sprang to mind.
No, there's got to be something. So, Simon, you're last up then for this week. What, you know, week of elephants? Are you still finishing elephants, or is there something else to do this week?
I've got with the elephants. I have to finish the basing off this week, so I'll do those. But then I'm going to get into some Renaissance pike and shot units. I'm thinking of doing some of the Swedish salvo units for 30 Years' War, because I may have bought some regimental guns and some spare pike and shot units, as one does.
It'd be rude not to.
Yeah, so
you may have bought. You're not sure about this.
Yeah.
Well, there's other people in the house who can overhear him, Adam. I think that's the thing. Yeah,
we definitely did order them. They definitely did arrive, but you know, we don't want to confirm it to anything.
No, don't want to scare the horses.
Neither confirm nor deny.
No.
Yeah, for safety reasons.
No, I do keep looking at now my drawers for Renaissance stuff and thinking, how much have I got? Far too much. How much will I play other sets of rules? I'll still play a bit, but not as much. How many could I convert to AGLGR easily enough to have a few more sets? And I've got some of those 80 by 40 bases as well, which are really nice for it. So I can see at some point, if I get spare time, kind of doing some soaking off and doing some other bits and pieces there.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if
tabletop
as
well.
Well, I may have last night after playing Andy started playing around with some of the tabletop simulator figures. So I may have done my first tercio in tabletop simulator. So I can see some pike and shot units coming up later on. I have no design skill whatsoever. So I am leveraging purely Massimiliano's existing graphic designs. But after Tim showed me how you can make your own units, it's like, I'm bored for 5 minutes. Let's see. Oh, that's not too bad. Oh, I can make a tercio. Oh, hello, that looks pretty. You know, the wargamer mentality of, I can do that.
Yeah, I can cobble that together. Okay.
Yeah.
No, so that's you for the week. Well, okay. Well, I think with that we're just a shade over 2 hours then, which is pretty consistently hitting it. We've had a consistent number of 150, 160 people within the first week or so listening to all of these. We're now, by the time this comes out, we'll be more than 100 days into lockdown, which is slightly scary. But I think there are
it's longer than Napoleon was ruling for in 1815.
Oh, okay. Right, that's an extra bonus quiz question right at the end. We're creeping up on all sorts of historical things, but it does seem like that there's some weeks of sunny weather coming up, so we've got some good opportunities to do some spray undercoating outside and get some much more painting done as we carry on.
A quick question on the spray painting.
Yeah.
So I know we've had a debate about which base coat to use. I've been using Army Painter white spray paint, but Tim, I believe you use a heresy set of miniature of paints. You use Halfords, is that right? For your base coating?
Halfords car car thing. I just use their white matte.
Halfords
Prime are very good, very, very good.
Halfords primers are good.
Yeah.
Because my theory is that they're for cars, so cars need a very smooth finish because they're cars. So if the primer is any way lumpy at all, it just would not work for cars. You get dirty great tin, and Halfords is one of those shops that is starting to open again now. I think they're open from next weekend.
Yeah, there's one about a 7-mile walk from me.
Yeah.
It's probably got an online thing anyway, I'd guess.
Yeah, online's always difficult for spray paint though, but I think definitely Halfords, the black and the white, are both very, very good.
Okay, it's cheap.
Either Halfords grey primer is good, and the red primer as well.
Oh, they've got a red oxide sort of primer as well.
Yeah,
they do a gold primer.
And on that note, it is time to go goodbye to 100 days of lockdown podcast. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
See you, everyone.
Au revoir.
Bye.
I was going to ask earlier, why would anybody buy a gold primer?
Peter?
Yeah, why? Why would anyone?
Why would you buy a gold primer?
To paint the badges.
Why wouldn't you? How could you not get the
But
gold
what's the
primer?
stripe in the middle, Adam? Yeah.
It's for knights.
Dave, I was just thinking, you're absolutely right. And the frightening thing is it's taken us 8 weeks to work that out. Why would anyone buy a gold primer? What were you going to prime in gold?
Badges. Badges.